Chapter 3. The Haunting. The following days were filled with an unsettling sense of unease. The house, once a place of promise and hope, now felt oppressive, as though it was suffocating them with its secrets. The renovations slowed as Jenna and Mark's focus shifted to the discovery they had made. They spent hours poring over old town records, visiting the local library, and even speaking with the town historian. What they uncovered was disturbing. The land on which their house was built had once been part of a much larger estate, owned by a wealthy and eccentric family in the 1800s. The family had been known for their strange and reclusive behavior, and rumors of dark rituals and mysterious disappearances had circulated among the townspeople. But the most troubling discovery was that the family had been involved in occult practices, and the underground chamber was likely used for those purposes. The historian, an elderly man with a somber expression, had warned them to be careful. That house has a dark history, he had said. People have gone mad living there. They say the spirits of the dead don't rest easy in that place. Jenna and Mark had dismissed the warnings at first, attributing them to local superstition. But as strange occurrences began to plague them, they couldn't help but wonder if there was some truth to the old man's words. It started with small things, doors that were left open when they were sure they had closed them. The sound of footsteps echoing through the house when no one was around, and cold spots that seemed to follow them from room to room. At night, they would hear whispers, barely audible but unmistakably there, as though the walls themselves were speaking to them. Jenna became increasingly anxious, her sleep plagued by nightmares. She would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart racing, convinced that she had seen shadowy figures standing at the foot of the bed. Mark, too, was affected, though he tried to maintain a rational perspective. He insisted that there must be a logical explanation for everything that was happening, though his confidence was beginning to waver. One night, as they sat in the living room, the power went out without warning. The house was plunged into darkness, the only light coming from the flickering flames of the fireplace. Jenna clutched Mark's arm, her fear palpable. "I don't like this, Mark," she whispered. "I don't feel safe here." Mark was about to respond when they heard it, a low, guttural moan that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the house. It was a sound that chilled them to the bone, a sound that spoke of pain, of torment, of something ancient and malevolent. "Did you hear that?" Jenna's voice trembled with fear. Mark nodded, his own heart pounding in his chest. "We need to get out of here," he said, his voice firm. "Now." They hurried to the front door, but it wouldn't budge. It was as though something was holding it shut, refusing to let them leave. Panic set in as they tried the other doors and windows, but all were unresponsive. They were trapped. The moaning grew louder, more insistent, and then they saw a figure, barely visible in the dim light, standing at the far end of the hallway. It was a woman, her form translucent and shimmering, her face twisted in a mask of anguish. She raised a hand as if to reach out to them, her mouth opening in a silent scream. Jenna and Mark backed away in terror, retreating to the living room. The figure followed, its movements slow but deliberate. It was as though the house itself had come alive, its walls closing in on them, its shadows stretching out to claim them. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The figure vanished, the moaning ceased, and the power flickered back on. The house was silent once more, but the fear lingered. A heavy weight pressing down on them,